Life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. This is a quote from John Lennon's song Beautiful Boy that I used to start a speech at a business and industry dinner back in 2011. I had been selected as the candidate to tell the audience how receiving a scholarship impacted my life and allowed me to continue with my education. In this episode, I will tell you how that quote was a real reflection of my life at the time, how life's upheavals can disrupt plans, and how I had to adapt to the changes. I will also talk about how one man brought an entire community together to help my family, which instilled a giving back framework for my life.
Hey, this is Rebuilding Dreams. It's Regina's second extreme home makeover. As you can see, we've got everybody behind us. We're 2 blocks away, and get ready for it because we're going to be surprising them on their front door, announcing with this big megaphone.
Welcome to Building Life, where construction meets consciousness. About 9 months after my first marriage to Dia, and after months of trying, we found out that she was pregnant. At the time, I was running my own renovation company, but money fluctuated from month to month. Some months we were rolling in it, and others we were just barely getting by. When Dia found out that she was pregnant, I decided I wanted to go back to school, not as a carpenter, but I wanted to take architecture. I met with a counselor at SciAS to enroll in the Architectural and Building Technologies program, and was accepted, providing I could complete some upgrading that was needed from my high school classes. I started attending night classes in the fall of 2009 to prepare myself for the fall semester in 2010. I started my program on August 30th, 2010, while Dia was still at home on maternity leave with our daughter Kirsten. On September 29th, Dia was taken to the hospital after the entire left side of her body went numb. At the hospital, they ran some tests but sent her home, telling her to follow up with her family doctor and to return to the hospital if anything changed. The next day, Dia returned to the hospital after the numbness and some motor skills started to get worse. Within 3 days of onset, she was near complete paralysis on the left side of her body and numb on most of her right side.
My wife was diagnosed in September of 2010 with a rare form of MS. When she first got sick, I was actually on my way home from school. I got home and she told me that she was losing feeling. She couldn't feel much on her left side. Her parents had taken her to the hospital. We had first thought maybe a stroke or something. And so they were testing her for a bunch of stuff, and the next morning she went back to the hospital and they admitted her. That was on a Friday that they had admitted her, and by Saturday evening she was almost completely paralyzed.
On October 4th, the doctors performed an emergency MRI that presented a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis, completed a spinal tap to determine the severity, and then transferred her to the neurological ward. There, they started her on steroids, which slowed progression and reduced some numbness for about 10 days, at which point she had a relapse, and that was much worse than the original attack. The doctors in Regina were quite shocked at the rapid progression and immediately sent her to a specialist in Saskatoon. The specialist confirmed she had an extremely rare variant of MS known as Marburg variant multiple sclerosis. Due to the variant and the rate of the disease progressing, they told us that Dia only had weeks to months to live. Since there were not many options and Dia's body was essentially rejecting the steroid treatments, the doctors suggested a trial treatment that would use old technology but in a new way. This treatment was plasmapheresis, also known as therapeutic plasma exchange. Basically, what they do is stick a large gauge needle in each arm. One side draws blood from the body, sends it to a machine that spins the blood in a centrifuge, separating the plasma from the blood. It then replaces it with a synthetic plasma called albumin and returns the blood to the body through the other arm. Dia underwent 20 treatments of this therapy, which started showing some promising results. Midway through her treatments, the hospital transferred her to a live-in medical facility, Wascana Rehabilitation Center. After she completed her treatments, she slowly started to get worse again, and the doctors decided she needed to be on a dedicated MS medication. There was just one problem. The medication was extremely expensive. Just one of the medications for her to survive was $1,360 per month. All of them combined was $1,870. Although we could apply for exceptional drug status, which would cover the cost of the medication, but to be accepted, she was required to walk 180 meters unassisted. At the time, Dia could not walk at all. So, working with therapists, they started exercises to get her walking short distances. After almost 6 months, a lot of work, and even more planning, Dia was able to walk 180.1 meters. However, this was just to get the medication, and she was still not ready to come home. In fact, the doctor primarily in charge of her care told Dia that she would not be going home and that she would soon be transferred to palliative care. Dia looked at her with more aggression than I had ever seen her show before and said, "Fuck you, I'm going home." Disruptions in life are always going to happen, whether we have a contingency plan in place or not. Since Dia was still on maternity leave and I had just started classes, this was a considerable upheaval to our finances and our daily schedule. On projects, we complete risk analysis, considering known unknowns and unknown unknowns that allows for the project team to put contingencies in place. The contingencies could be to mitigate financial or schedule impacts. No different than on a day with bad weather, you leave a few minutes early to account for road conditions and make sure you have extra fuel in the tank. After Dia was initially diagnosed with MS, I had to make a choice. Do I drop out of school to take care of my wife and daughter, or do I stay in school with the hopes of advancing my career into something better? After discussing it with both of our families, we decided I should continue with my program. Logical thinking revealed that I could quit classes, but then I'm either looking for a job to support our family or we would end up on social assistance. If I stayed in school, I'd be getting our bills paid through student loans and still be furthering my education. I chose the latter and ended up getting scholarships, and in my remaining semesters, I was funded through Gabrielle Dumont Training and Employment. While Dia was in the hospital, my mom came to stay with Kirsten and me. I would get up in the morning, get myself and Kirsten ready for the day, drop Kirsten off at daycare, and commute 45 minutes to Moose Jaw, where my classes were. At the end of the day, I would commute back to Regina, pick Kirsten up from daycare, and we would both go up to the hospital to see Dia. My mom would meet us at the hospital after she was done work and then take Kirsten home in time for her bedtime. I would stay with Dia for the evening and get her ready for bed, and after she was in bed, I would head home and do homework until about 2 a.m. Even after Dia was home, this was my schedule every day for almost 3 years. Lather, rinse, repeat. I have always been someone that functions on 5 to 6 hours of sleep per night, but this was a ridiculous schedule to maintain, especially when it came to exams. Most of my life, I was prescribed either Dexedrine or Adderall, an amphetamine used to treat ADHD. Since this was a stimulant and caffeine just does not work for me, I again found myself abusing the prescription just to make it through the day. At the end of the third semester, I slept less than 1 hour per night during the week of exams, and I did not sleep at all for the 3 days leading up to that week. The moment I started to feel tired, I would just take another pill. Burnout is real. I know this now after having a heart attack just a couple of years ago at age 42. Being driven and having good work ethic are great characteristics to have, but you also must consider at what cost, because there is no contingency plan for when your heart stops. I am learning that creating a work-life balance is the key to success. I'm sure you've heard the saying, your job will be posted before your obituary. After approximately 8 months, Dia was able to return home with some pretty tight restrictions, and we had to make a lot of accommodations to the house to allow her return. A gentleman in Regina posted on Marketplace looking to donate some disability equipment to someone in need after his wife passed from complications related to MS. We got in touch with him and he gave us the equipment needed to ensure Dia had a safe environment at our house. Installation of the equipment and some renovations were completed while Dia was still in the hospital, which eventually allowed for her return home. Around May of 2011, we saw an advertisement for a program called Rebuilding Dreams, Regina's Extreme Home Makeover. Dia and I sent in an application to be one of the participating families and included her story. We were selected to be one of the 6 families that were moved into an online voting process to determine who would be the recipient family. At the beginning of August, we watched as the voting ended and were told that only the selected family would be notified. I remember pacing the floor all morning and waiting for a call while both mine and Dia's families sat at the house to support us. Then there was a knock at the front door and a commotion outside. As we opened the door, we were confronted with a crowd of people cheering us on.
You guys are officially the winners. 2011 Extreme Home Makeover. Come on out, Ashton and Dia. Hey guys, congrats. Congrats.
That day, we were told to pack up all our belongings, and we were moved to a condo downtown for the next 6 weeks. During the renovation, we were banned from social media and asked to not watch or read any local news. This was mainly based on an honor system, but I can say that I did not look in any way. As a matter of fact, if people started to talk about our house, I would politely ask them to stop as we didn't want to know any of the details until the day of the reveal. The day of the grand reveal was on my 30th birthday, September 15th, 2011. They sent a limo bus to the condo to pick up Dia, Kirsten, and I, and all the windows were blacked out so we couldn't see outside. The limo pulled onto the opposite side of the crescent that we lived on, and as it came around the corner, there was a city bus blocking the view of our house. When we exited the bus, we were greeted by hundreds of spectators and placed on the opposite side of the city bus from our house. There was a podium set up where several people made speeches, and then the Saskatchewan Roughriders, our province's football team, pushed the city bus out of the way, allowing for the grand reveal of our fully renovated house.
The riders are on the back here. We want to thank the City of Regina again for letting us use their bus here. We were luckily that we have a bus. Riders, are you guys ready? Oh, ready. They're ready to push. Okay, let's start chanting. Move that bus. 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 Move that bus! Move that bus! Move that bus! Yes.
Rebuilding Dreams and their volunteers completely gutted the house, right down to the framing, added a 200 square foot addition, redesigned the floor plan to allow for barrier-free movement, fully renovated the interior and exterior with a fully landscaped yard. It was absolutely incredible what they accomplished in 6 weeks' time. Positive changes can still be an upheaval. It doesn't have to be a negative one. Moving into that condo for 6 weeks was still a disruption to our regular life, even though we signed up for it. We had to make changes to our everyday schedule. Since we didn't know who was being selected or what to expect if we were, most of our things were in storage and we only had access to the things we brought with us. Regardless, I would take this type of change over any of the others around that time. It has been just about 15 years since Rebuilding Dreams, and I would like to again thank the organizer, Adam Hicks, the team from Rebuilding Dreams, contractors, suppliers, volunteers, and our community that came together for my family. Community is such a strong asset to have. Too often we see people bringing others down instead of lifting each other up, but I have seen firsthand the power that a great community can have. I met with Adam for the first time after several years of losing touch to obtain some of the footage in this episode. Unfortunately, This was the last time that Rebuilding Dreams ran their program. I asked Adam to be a guest on a future episode to talk about his experience, what he had learned, and where he is at in life after losing everything. He has agreed and will be on an upcoming episode. I would like to one day be in a place that I can help others the same way my family was. I cannot express into words the impact that has on someone's life. The principles behind change management in construction can also be used as tools in our personal lives. While constructing a project, issues will appear, and when they do, we have a typical process to follow. The first being a request for information, understanding the problem to determine a resolution. This is typically followed by a site instruction if there is no impact, schedule, or cost, or a price request if there is an expected impact. Other things to consider are: what initiated the change? Is this something that can be avoided? Did we cause it ourselves? Or is it out of our control and something that we are forced to adapt to? Answering these questions can assist us with understanding the need for the change and allow us to make the necessary adjustments. The same principles can be applied to our personal lives, but don't forget about the contingency allowance. We can get into risk management and contingencies at another time, but for now, consider this. When upheavals or changes happen, keep asking the questions: who, what, when, where, why, and how, until you have a good understanding of the problem. It is better to fully understand what is going on before you decide how to react. Without fully understanding the problem, your decision will be based on emotion, and without considering logic, it will most likely be the wrong decision. This isn't just my journey, it's ours. Building Life is a community for guys who want to build something stronger inside and out. I want to hear from you. This week, take a moment and try this. Ask yourself how you deal with change. Are you adaptable to change, or do you typically resist it? Do you have a set process that you follow to help deal with changes, or are you more of a deal with it as it comes while things ebb and flow? Having a pre-existing plan for dealing with changes can reduce the stress of the impact from that change. Similar to having a contingency set aside to deal with schedule and cost impacts. Try creating a step-by-step guide for how you plan to deal with life's changes and give it a try throughout the week. You may find that as things change, you approach it like water off a duck's back. That's it for this episode of Building Life, where construction meets consciousness. I'm AC Strong, and I'm honored to be on this journey with you. I don't have all the answers, but I got a toolbox full of construction wisdom and a heart ready to learn. If you're ready to build a stronger, more meaningful life, hit that subscribe button so we can keep building together. Share your thoughts in the comments or send me a message. Until next time, grab your tools, physical or spiritual, and let's get to work. See you on the job site.